just wanna say that I feel that our love is real. Maybe we should hurry up and seal the deal. Take you there. I would give it all away to do it all again. Make our love a story that would never end. Never thought I'd feel so alive, looking in your eyes. I just wanna love you till the day I die. Oh, oh, I just wanna love you right. Oh, oh, love you till the end of time. I just wanna hold you for forever. Every day you're making me better, 'cause of love. Take you there. If I'm gonna love somebody, I just wanna love you. If I'm gonna love somebody, I just wanna love you. If I'm gonna love somebody, I just wanna love you. If I'm gonna love somebody, I just wanna love you. I just wanna love you right. Oh, oh, love you till the end of time. I just wanna hold you for forever. Every day you're making me better, 'cause a love like this is rare.
Hello everyone, happy Taylor Tuesday. Happy Taylor Tuesday. I'm wearing my maroon sweater because I was hoping that it was gonna bring me luck in the pre-sale. Okay, but it's no secret. First of all, hi, love your faces. I'm so excited that we're back. I can't even stand it. I'm so excited to talk about the writing showcase. I hope you loved it because I feel like we have to do it again. We have to. I mean, oh my gosh, I don't even have words, but all right. It's no secret. I have nothing to hide in terms of my Taylor fandom. I am well aware that I'm an OG Swiftie and I don't care. I don't care at all. I listen, nonstop, especially because a lot of her music is like writing playlists for me. So they're just kind of like background music. So I'm always like one of her #1 fans on Spotify, all of the things. I got waitlisted for the pre-sale, whereas cut this way.
This guy, verified fan. All right.
The tag guy got verified. The tag guy got verified.
That's right.
Oh, that was a little bit of a gut punch. Although I will say it's because you have purchased me many things from her website over the years. So I think that the algorithm must have known that and appreciated you. I was awake at like 6 and then online like an hour before. I know, right? Terry, right? Dang, he's never going to let me live this down. The question is, too, like, are you going to take one of the tickets? Are you coming with me? Should the tech guy come with me? Really, Michelle? Okay, see, I wonder, has your husband bought you stuff from her site? Like, it has to be that, right?
Wait, we get to meet Taylor, right? That's
totally.
Part of the deal.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
Definitely.
Then I will come.
Okay. Anyway, I was in the queue first thing. I was also texting my former editor, my first editor for Bake Shop, who is like, our fandom is the same. And it's such a point of connection and we're still really good friends. So she's texting me from New York because it opened at 7 on the East Coast, right? For you East Coasters. And so I'm in the queue early, like I'm waiting, and then we get this message that suddenly it's shifted to 3 p.m. Pacific time. So I basically have not left this spot all day, just like constant refreshing. And then once I was in the queue, don't refresh. But anyway, long story short, seeing Taylor, cannot wait. All right.
Well, there's a lot going on today, too.
Lillian, I would so fangirl her. Like, you have no idea. So fangirl her. And Paula, yes, they are expensive, but I think that's like all the off sites trying to like cheat everybody out of their money. The pre-sale tickets that we got were not outrageous at all. In fact, they're more reasonable than some other concerts that I've been to that aren't as big as like Taylor. So anyway, not technically Michelle, but he may have paid for things. That's hilarious, right? Yeah, totally. Anyway, Kara, I should send her my books. Like, how do we do that? Because she could be Jules, right? I mean, she really is Jules. And her next project, should we all just like put this out together? Her next project could be, you know, a cozy mystery. I feel like that's right. Like she could bring that to the big screen in some form, or to the screen in some form. It can be a Netflix streaming series with Taylor as Juliet. Sure, why not? She does bake, Beth. I know. She's a baker. She loves cats. She loves to read. Like she has so many heartbreak songs, which is why she initially became my playlist. And Love Story is the theme song for Bake Shop Mystery. So there you go. Maybe Taylor wants totally. That's fine with me. I'm okay with that, Joseph. Like, if that gets me one step closer to her, great. You can have her, tech guy.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
too.
totally. Exactly. Oh, dear. Hi, George. She is a cozy mystery personality, Melissa. 100%. And yeah, she has all her hidden things, and I feel like it's a mind meld somehow. We need to make that happen.
Brooke is
Brooke.
right. Yeah.
Yes, right, exactly. She is a top tier mystery writer. She knows how to embed Easter eggs and little red herrings and all the things. But okay, I do not want to steamroll tonight with my fandom for Taylor, because I made it through the day. I did pour myself a tiny little glass, just a splash of wine. Now that I've secured my tickets, I really want to talk about this story showcase, because wow. Wow. Like, I already knew this about our group, and I don't know if anybody picked up, but the tech guy did a flashback start with our countdown music to when we began our story collaborations during the height of the pandemic back in 2020. And I feel like that's really what like sparked all of our connections here. So we had to like throw that back. But I was absolutely floored in reading through all of the entries. Floored. There were also so many entries, and what I saved them all to read kind of at once, because I didn't want to have a lot of space between them where I might forget something. So I wanted to make sure that I was reading everything. Like, I read all the Sand Dooms as a batch, and then I read all the Swensons as a batch, and all of the Sound of Hello as a batch. But what I wasn't anticipating, and should have, was that there were going to be a plethora of entries that rolled in the last few days, the 11th hour, shall we say, which I've done that many a times myself. Not that there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I think sometimes it's good to let something sit and think about it. But I spent a lot of time reading, and this group is so creative. It was beyond difficult to try to pick 3 entries that stood out. I feel really excited about the ones that I have, but I want the takeaway to be that I hope that if you participated in this, it sparked something, any little tiny thing. I know some of you are already writers, but if you're writing for the first time, I hope that it did that, because it was just fascinating. And it's also fascinating from that lens of there were themes, like we'll talk about Sand Dune first. There were themes that came up, like ship captains and lighthouses and similar themes that writers used. But it was fascinating to be on this end of it, because this is something I talk about all the time when I'm teaching and coaching mystery writing. But I really saw it on the page, so to speak, which is that each writer brings their own voice and lens and tone. So even if there's something that has a similar, even like hint of a thread, it doesn't matter, because you make it your own. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for participating in this. I definitely want to do it again. I hope you enjoyed it. I hate having to pick a winner. Because
if I could just interject for a second.
Yeah.
It was absolutely killing her that she didn't know who wrote what.
Yeah.
Because I numbered all the entries, so I knew, but she didn't. And you know, to your credit, you didn't try to bribe me to get answers or anything. But I enjoyed it personally.
You enjoyed watching me be tormented?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so what I did, I know that what I would like to do, actually, if you participated, you might get, like a little something in the mail just because you did it. But I did have to call out a couple honorable mentions. So without further ado, I am going to move this along tonight because I'm going to read them all. So I've got a lot of reading to get to. Without further ado, let's talk about Sand Dune. The two honorable mentions that I want to call out go to Sally and Mackenzie. Sally and Mackenzie. Yeah, everybody, a round of applause. Like I said, it was a struggle to pick anything. One of the things about Mackenzie's story that stood out so much to me were her incredible details. So I pulled out one sentence as an example. His skin ghostly pale with auburn, damp curls plastered down over his face. His mouth slightly agape, giving him a look of utter bewilderment and surprise. That's as she's describing this dead man that we find on the beach. And then Sally, I loved that you made it your own. Her twist was that the man isn't dead, which I totally appreciate because the way the book or the start ends is that we just say that it's a body. So most writers were like, well, obviously if it's a body, he's dead. But Sally took it her own way. It's a man who's not dead, a ship captain, which, like I said, that theme came up a few times. Who knows her? And then there's a whole plot there. So I think it might be fun at some point to share these all out in general. But our winner, without further ado, for Sand Dune goes to Anna Rollins, aka we may know her as Paula here in this group. I just adored her story, and one of the things that I love about it is it's a perfect example of how you can write an entire story and wrap it up and close it in something that is as tight as 2,000 words, and the ending is just so with that, let's get to it. I think I'm gonna read the start and then I'll tell you where Jana, aka Paula, picks up from there. Okay, so this is Sand Dune.
This is your.
So this is the Ellie portion of Sand Dune. Bear tagged at my heels. You want to go for a walk, Bear? He did a little dance in a circle and pawed at me. Okay, you can come. I held the door open for him and he raced outside. A thick fog blanketed the hillside. It felt like it was going to rain. I cinched my hoodie tighter and stepped carefully toward the stairs. It was hard to see through the dense cloud cover. Bear raced down the stairs. I hollered for him to wait as I inched down each step. The sound of waves crashing onto the sand below helped guide me. When I made it down, Bear was waiting patiently for me. Good boy. I reached down and ruffled his head. Okay, you can run now. He ran straight for the surf. The tide had rolled in, washing away yesterday's sandcastles. I drank in the cool morning air. The mist seemed to hang on each wave, riding in with them as they hit the shore. Bear raced between them. I shivered at the thought of being in the icy water. The ocean waters on the Oregon coast are cold, even on a hot summer's day. I walked close to the water's edge, away from town, in a quiet morning meditation. No wonder treasure hunters combed the beach every morning. I felt like I was the only person on the planet. I could get used to this. Off in the distance, I noticed something washed on the shore. It was big, like a piece of driftwood. I decided to check it out. Come on, Bear, I called, and I hit my hand on my hip. He bounded out of the water, raced over to me, and shook his entire body. Water sprayed everywhere, hitting me like icy darts. Bear, stop, I commanded, brushing water from my sweatshirt. Suddenly, his ears turned up and his tail stiffened. He was on high alert. I felt my body tense with his. "What's wrong, buddy?" I glanced behind me. Fog and mist stretched as far as I could see. Bear bolted forward. I ran to keep up. Maybe a solo beach walk wasn't such a good idea. He came to a sudden stop near the driftwood and let out a growl. I slowed my pace. I had a sinking feeling that something was wrong. As I stepped closer to Bear, my fear was confirmed. It wasn't driftwood that had washed ashore. It was a body. A man's body. Da, da, da. Okay, now we are going to pick up where Jana, aka Paula, took it over. Yanking his leash out of my pocket, I snapped the lead to my Newfoundland's pup's collar and pulled him close to my side before stepping toward the body. A gentleman's grizzled features, framed by a snowy white beard, lay in the cold, wet sand. He was dressed in a dark blue jacket with 2 rows of shiny buttons marching down the front. A white collared shirt encircled by a dark tie rose above the button jacket. A matching captain's hat sat perfectly straight on his head, like it dared not move. Incoming waves danced around the man's feet, tugging at the bottom of his trousers. I barely had time to register the oddness of this old-fashioned attire before my mind grasped onto the fact that the man was dead. If it wasn't for the waxen skin and the complete lack of movement, I'd have thought he was sleeping. I studied his face. The man looked so familiar. Where had I seen him before? Was he a local? His wardrobe made me think he might be a captain of a fancy cruise ship. But did they even dress like that anymore? I racked my brain to remember if any recent sinkings along the coast had been on the news, but I came up blank. Maybe a boat sunk overnight and I simply hadn't heard about it yet. Could a shipwreck have happened so recently that it hadn't even been reported yet? I searched the sky for any sign of a Coast Guard helicopter out on a rescue mission, but the low ceiling created by the fog made it impossible to see, and the pounding surf crashed against the beach, so I couldn't determine if I heard a chopper or just the roar of the ocean. I took a giant step back from the body and dialed 911. Bear whined by my side and pulled at the leash. I signaled for him to sit. The dog plopped onto my foot and continued to whine. While we waited for emergency personnel to arrive, I studied my surroundings. Windswept and sparse, this stretch of the beach felt as familiar to me as the back of my hand. Each blade of dune grass and every seagull's call felt like an old friend most days. Today, with the sky and the sea the same leaden gray, it made it next to impossible to tell where one left off and the other began. A faint whiff of smoke swirled in the icy wind and blew straight through my forest green hoodie, making my bones rattle as the first raindrops slid down my face. The shaking I felt all the way to my core could have a lot to do with the dead man lying at my feet, but the cold wasn't helping either. Normally, Bear and my morning routine consisted of a walk down the beach from the cedar-sided cottage we called home until the Tillamook Rock Lighthouse, or Terrible Tilly, as locals called her because of the light's bleak history. It came into view. Once I saluted Tilly, I'd whistle for Bear, and then we'd turn and head back in the opposite direction. By the time we ended up back on the porch, my Fitbit would ding with a notification that I'd gotten half of my daily steps in. If I did nothing else but stare at the wall for the rest of the day, I was still only half as likely to turn into a potato. But as a kindergarten teacher, it was highly unlikely I'd ever be staring at a wall all day. Wrangling a herd of rowdy 5-year-olds used up a surprising number of steps and energy. Rain beat down harder, and the wind picked up until it felt like a sandblaster was pointed straight at me. I raised a hand to shield my face, squinting to catch a glimpse of the lighthouse. Tilly's light no longer warned seafarers of danger. She'd been decommissioned over 60 years ago, but still stood tall and proud over a mile out to sea as a lonely reminder of a different time. Today, the weather kept Tilly hidden from view. A flashing red light at the top of the dunes cut through the thick fog. Help had arrived. Bear and I trotted to meet them. Sue Beckenridge, a police officer addressed me as I approached. I nodded in acknowledgement and then answered all of the questions I could while the professionals studied the scene. As soon as the officers released me to my day, I pulled my phone out of my pocket and made a quick call to my favorite substitute teacher. Going about my day after this morning's events wasn't something I could fathom. The sub readily agreed to take over my classroom. I thanked her profusely, grateful for the reprieve. Back at the cottage, I took a hot shower to wash away the chill penetrating my bones. Something about the dead man's features kept niggling at my mind. None of the emergency personnel on the beach seemed to have recognized him, but I knew I'd seen the man around somewhere. Since I rarely left town, it must have been locally, though I couldn't remember where. I sighed and rinsed shampoo out of my hair. After a bowl of maple and brown sugar oatmeal and a cup of steaming black coffee, I told Bear to be a good boy while I was gone. Then I grabbed my stack of library books and headed to the local community library. I looked forward to a leisurely pursuit of the shelves, though the fact I had extra time today because a man was dead wasn't lost on me. Once I found out his identity, I'd be sure to pay my respects to his family. The library, housed in a 3-story Victorian, had once been a majestic home of a seafaring captain who built the home for his wife and daughters to live in comfort while he was away at sea. A great-grandson of the captain donated it to be used as the community library in honor of his mother's love of books. The library board, more than grateful for the family's generosity, donated the library with photographs and memorabilia from the local nautical history of the area. The beautiful library worked overtime as a nautical history museum. "Hello, Sue. You're not working today?" The librarian greeted me as I dumped my books into the return slot. Having promised the police to keep the death on the beach quiet for now, I shrugged noncommittedly. I needed a mental health day. Don't we all, she laughed. Well, good to see you. I grinned and headed upstairs to the nonfiction section. A friend had recommended a book about a woman's adventure in the Arctic that I hoped to find. Halfway up the stairs, I caught a glimpse out of the corner of my eye of an old picture on the wall and stopped with a jolt. Turning to face the photograph, I gasped. The man from the beach stared back at me. The caption read, "Charles Johansson, lighthouse keeper, Tillamook Rock, lost at sea, 1887. Stunned, I grabbed the sturdy wooden railing behind me and sank to the steps, one hand pressing to my racing heart as the sound of the library around me muted. No, Charles Johansson couldn't possibly be the dead man from the beach this morning, but he was a spitting image. A great-great-grandson? Wearing the exact same clothes of his ancestor? Right down to the shiny gold buttons? What are the odds? With my phone, I snapped a picture of the portrait and hurried upstairs, making a beeline for the local history section. Quickly scanning the shelves, I pulled out 3 books about Terrible Tilly, then situated myself at a round table with my selections and a notebook and a pen to begin my search. Weather conditions at Terrible Tilly were well documented, with heavy storms regularly plummeting the small lighthouse with gale-force winds and terrifying waves surging over the rocks where the lighthouse sat. More than one life was lost during a raging storm over the years, so when Charles Johansson disappeared from duty, they assumed he'd be lost to the greedy sea. Friends had expected him in town that evening, but neither Charles nor his wooden dory made it. They never found his body. I shivered. Charles disappeared on October 12th, 1887, exactly 135 years ago today. I pushed the first book aside and slid the next one forward, scouring the pages to find any other tidbits about Charles. Buried in a second book, I found another mention of his disappearance. The article indicated the man never had been married and had no children. I sat back against the chair with a thump and dumped my pen on the table. How could that be? The new information blew holes in my theory about the dead man on the beach being a grandson of the missing lighthouse keeper. When I'd exhausted all mentions of Charles Johansson I could find, I absently flipped through the books one more time while my mind raced. How could a man wash onto shore over 100 years after he fell into the sea and look like he'd been gone for no more than a handful of hours? Obviously, it was completely impossible, and I'd lost my mind for even contemplating such a ridiculous scenario. As I randomly flipped the pages in a book made from old local newspaper clippings, a headline drew my attention. Local woman missing, feared swept out to sea. The article was dated October 12th, 1902. I gasped and scanned the article. The woman had disappeared from the same stretch of beach where Charles, or whomever the man was, washed up this morning. Slowing down, I turned the pages, searching for more disappearances. A second person went missing from the same stretch of sand in 1917, then another in 1932, both on October 12th. It took me a minute to see the pattern, but once I did it, I couldn't unsee it. Every 15 years, a person went missing. I flipped through the pages faster, 1947, 1962, and on, like clockwork, one at a time. 9 people disappeared from the same place on the same date, each 15 years apart, starting as far as I could tell with Charles Johansson. It couldn't be a serial killer. He'd have to be 150 years old. What could be happening on a stretch of beach to swallow someone up every 15 years and then spit one of them out looking none the worse for the wear? Well, if you didn't count being dead, worse for the wear, that is. Today marks 15 years since the last disappearance. I glanced at the clock on the wall. Still time to find out what's causing people to vanish. Without gathering any solid evidence, no one would believe something unexplainable was happening right under our noses. Honestly, I wasn't sure I believed it myself. Leaving the books where they lay, I grabbed my purse and headed out at a run. What in the world? I heard the librarian mutter as I thundered by. I jumped in my Jeep, headed for the beach access, windshield wipers slamming against the icy rain, or slapping against the icy rain as I slammed the car door and headed down the beach. A shimmering wall of silver twinkled from the sand near where the old man had washed up. I squinted. What is that? I pulled out my phone and opened the camera function to snap a few pictures. As I jogged closer, the glittering wall raced to meet me. Before I could react, a swirling mass of iridescent sparkles engulfed me in a strong vacuum. It felt like I was racing through a galaxy of stars. The next morning, local headlines read, Local woman missing, feared, swept out to sea. How's that for an ending? Well done.
Wow.
Yeah, right? The tech guy hasn't heard any of these.
No.
You did all the back end work.
Yeah.
Jana, Paula, what do y'all think? Amazing, right? Amazing. Oh, so exciting. So crazy exciting. I know, right? Suyin, I'm scared too. That was terrifying. I didn't think it was going to go there. I thought, maybe there was going to be a ghost involved or something like that. There were some ghost themes, which I adored in this, in particular, and actually in the next one that I'm going to read, but, beautiful. Oh, thank you. I hope I didn't butcher it. I'm very scared for, the winning story for The Sound of Hello, because it has a lot of Russian in it. And I did, in between trying to score Taylor tickets today, try to do a little pronunciation, but what are you going to do? I tried. Such a great story. Bravo, Paula, aka Jana, who has some other writing coming soon that we'll have to talk about. Yeah, right, Trisha? I don't want to go down the beach either. It's terrifying. It's so terrifying. She did a great job. So awesome. And like I said, all of you did. So thank you. All right, we're moving on to the peculiar case of Swenson Summers. Again, I had to pick 2 honorable mentions because these 2 stories in particular really stood out to me. Okay, so without further ado, I know I'm going fast, but it's a lot of reading to get through, so I don't want to keep you for like 5 hours where you're like, oh my gosh, it's 10:30 and Ellie's still reading stories. Twilight Zone, though, yes, totally, April. Yeah, that was an unexpected twist at the end. Julie, I love where she took the story too, right? I did not see that part coming. Okay, so without further ado, my 2 honorable mentions for The Peculiar Case of Swenson Summers are Amy Nicholas and Trisha Maniaci. So great. Both of these stories were amazing. In Amy's story, there is a league of magical librarians, which I think you just need to go write that book because I want to read that book. I mean, who doesn't want to read a book about a league of magical librarians? That needs to be on the shelves. So this is your sign to go write that. And Trisha's masterpiece brought so many themes together that you would never necessarily, maybe you would, but I would not have seen all connecting. Danger Explosion, which is like a core memory of mine from being in early middle school. I think it was in 6th grade when that happened. And we all just sort of watched it on TV with our teacher and then went to our next class. Like, talk about trauma. But the Challenger explosion and Harriet the Spy and just all these points of connection that also kind of like Paula's story come full circle. So well done, Trisha. You had me hooked. As far as our winner for The Peculiar Case of Swenson Summers, Joanne Jerry, congratulations. This was fun. And I think this concept and twist pulled me in immediately. And the tech guy, like I said, has not heard these yet. So I think he's going to be a super fan of what you did with the story, Jerry. So that's a little hint for everybody because you all know how the tech guys, sways, right? Okay, so I'll do the same thing. Because it's been, we did this months ago to give you all time to write. I'll go quickly through the pages that I wrote, and then we will move on to Joanne's story. So this is The Peculiar Case of Swenson Summers. Harry, are you down there? Yeah, give me 2 minutes. I need to lock up. Harry, actually Harriet, but her friends call her Harry or Hars or Hara, glanced down the long row of bookshelves. Dust particles hung in the air, illuminated by the ancient yellow bulbs that Harry was sure hadn't been changed since the library had been constructed in the early 1800s. Staff and patrons claimed the basement archives were haunted. That was fine by Harry. She would absolutely die to see a ghost. She volunteered to peruse the never-ending tomes whenever a request came through for a book that spine hadn't been cracked in centuries. Be right there, Harry called, running her fingers along the black leather spines. I just need to grab one title. A patron is coming tonight to pick it up. Tonight? Pierce the custodian hollered back, his voice reverberating off the shelves and echoing back to her. Let me focus or come down here, Harry yelled. That shut him up. She read the titles until finally landing on the book she had been tasked to find. The Peculiar Case of Swenson Summers. Harry pulled it from the shelf, sending more dust flying. Interesting title. She wondered what was so special about a book and the mysterious patron who had somehow convinced her boss to let them come pick up the book after hours and to pay Harry overtime to await their arrival. Harry tucked the book under her arm and headed for the stairwell. She took the steps 2 at a time, but froze halfway up at the sound of a loud thud behind her. Pierce, is that you? Me, what? Pierce appeared at the top of the stairs. Did you hear that crash? He shook his shaggy hair. Nope, probably a book falling. Yeah, but she trailed off. What she wanted to say was that the thud sounded big, like not a book big, but really big. For some reason, she stopped herself. Look, I've got to pick up my kid. Pierce tapped his watch. Okay, I'll lock up. Harry crested the stairs. You don't have a key for the basement. No, not the basement. She moved out of his way so he could latch the ornately carved door that led downstairs. I meant the front. I have to wait for the patron. You sure? Pierce sounded concerned. You want to hang out alone at night? I'm fine. This is 2022 and I'm not a damsel in distress. Pierce chuckled. You? A damsel in distress? Hardly. But this place is creepy at night. Keep your eyes and ears. Oh, I'm missing a part there. Open. Will do. Harry made an X over her chest. Then she went to sit at the front desk and wait for the patron. In hindsight, she probably should have asked for a name at the very least. But then again, who was going to stroll in at this hour looking for a rare book? She opened the soft leather cover, wondering about said book. As she read the inscription on the front of the page, she nearly dropped it on the floor. It read, "To Harriet, may this find you when you need it. May you protect it with your life." At the same moment, the door burst open and a stranger dressed in black from head to toe, their eyes shielded by a dark cap, strolled in with a casual menace. I believe you have a book for me? Okay, so that's where mine left off, and now we're going to pick up with Joanne's ending. Are we ready? Hey, Joanne. Harry froze. This must be the patron she was waiting for, though without a name she couldn't be certain. Yes, we have a book waiting for you. Harry paused, shifting a few of the books on the desk below her. Her high counter blocked the view from the stranger. Will you confirm the title you're seeking? I have a few on hold here. Keeping their head down so Harry couldn't get a good look at their face, the stranger walked closer to the desk. You know which book I'm here for. Don't try to keep it from me, the stranger growled. Oh no, of course not. Harry scrambled. So much for trying to be nice. It pained her to have to give the book away before she was able to flip through it. She thought she would have more time. Was the inscription meant for her? With a million other Harriets in the world, and a book as old as this, no chance it was her. Harry grabbed the clipboard that contained the release form for the book. Old ones, such as this, didn't have a barcode to scan, and due to their age and fragility, they were checked out with certain stipulations. If you'll just sign here, I'll get this processed. Harry pushed the clipboard to the patron. Library card, please? The card presented to her was a version she didn't recognize. Scanning it, she glanced at the screen, curious about the patron. She froze when it was her account that activated. Harriet Newman. Yes, Harry, it's me. The stranger took off her hat and revealed the short blonde bob that matched Harry's. The same piercing blue eyes that reflected back at her every day in the mirror, though these had a seasoned hardness she wasn't used to seeing. Now give me the book. Bang! The locked door to the basement rattled with the sound, the handle frantically turning. Both Harrys turned to watch as the door shook in its ornate frame. Hurry, pass it over. We don't have much time. They're already here, older Harry hissed, leaning over the desk. I know you have it here. Snatching the book, young Harry clutched it to her chest, backing away from the desk, flicking her gaze from old Harry to the pounding of the basement door. Okay, fine then. Come with me if you won't hand it over. I'm not about to pry it from you, but we leave now. Shooting a look to the basement door that had started bowing from the pressure, splinters flaking off in places. It wasn't going to hold much longer. What is that? Young Harry asked, still stunned. Nothing you want to encounter. Come on, girl, go! Old Harry hurtled over the desk, grabbing the younger woman by her arm and dragging her to the door. Pushing her past the threshold, old Harry turned to the door, pulling out a piece of chalk. Making a few symbols around the frame, she turned and tugged young Harry up from where she'd spilled to the ground, still clutching the book. That should hold them for now, but we need to get to someplace safe. You're stuck with me unless you want to hand that book over. Fierce blue eyes met her confused blue ones. I'm not handing it over until you give me some answers, young Harry countered, squaring up to old Harry. Now that she was close, she could see the worry lines around her eyes and the streaks of silver in her blonde hair. There was a slash of an old scar across her temple, reaching up to her hairline. While still the same height, this new version was definitely more muscular, harder. Glancing at the door, older Harry sighed, scrubbing a gloved hand over her eyes. Harriet, we don't have time. Harry, she snapped, you know our name. Fine, Harry, you can call me H. I have a house a few blocks away. We can talk there. H glanced down, making sure Harry still had the book in her hand. Don't lose that. We're all counting on it. So, Harry started, blowing on the mug of hot tea in her hand. You're me? In a sense, yes, H agreed. It's not that simple, and before you interrupt, she held up her hand. We don't have time to get into all the science. Stars, even I don't understand most of it. Harry watched as H paced in the small kitchen, unable to stay still, chalk symbols covering most of the walls. What I can tell you is that I'm a version of you 27 years in the future. I'm trying to set things right and make sure this iteration of my life, my present, won't ever come to fruition. What happens? Harry asked. H stalled. Terrible things. Unthinkable atrocities. And you need this book? Why? Harry asked. Why can't you just get it in your time? Why come back now? H pressed her lips together into a thin line. It's no longer around in my time. Nothing is, really. The corporation destroyed it all. She paused, a faraway look in her eyes. I was one of the lucky ones, or unlucky, depending on how you look at it. I survived the first phase and joined the resistance. We've been searching for a way to bring them down and finally figured it out. But what we need is in that book. H pointed to the small book sitting on the scratched surface of the tiny dining table. One of our scientists figured out the codes to hack their system. Unfortunately, the Corp found out what we're doing and tried to stop us. Our scientist was able to jump through an untested vortex with the codes. We thought he'd been destroyed along with our hope. However, we were able to track where he went back to 1840. He must have understood that he was stuck there with no other way to get us information, so he did the only thing he knew how to do. We discovered a book he'd written, part of a collection. The problem was it had already been lost in the destruction of our world. We made a choice. I came back to a time where we knew the book would be. She focused on Harry, where I knew I would be. Harry ran a finger over the cover of the book, tracing the embossed gold letters that made up the title. So, this is a book that will save the world? H barked out a laugh. No, but it's a first step. Stars know there are plenty of other things that need to fall into place for us to change anything. She looked at the book thoughtfully before stashing it in her pack. But this is a start. She snapped her pack closed. Time to go. I didn't tell you before, too. There's a little, marker to say, okay, we're in a new scene now. This is where the portal is? Harry stared at the side entry to the zoo. Seems like it should be in a warehouse or something. This isn't a movie, H teased. It does, however, happen to be the future site of the Resistance Lab, so it makes it easier to jump. Something about time being thinner here. She pulled out a badge from her pack and swiped it over the reader. It beeped and the door swung open. We're still pretty early, so I don't anticipate any trouble with the employees, but keep your eyes open for Corp personnel. I know they sent a few agents back to try to stop us. Fortunately, most of them have been neutralized by my team. Harry started, how will I know they're part of the Corp? Trust me when I tell you, you will absolutely know when you see them. H shuddered and pulled out a zoo map. Nocturnal House circled in red. This is where we need to go. The low lighting and muffled sound in the Nocturnal House felt like a warm embrace. Soft squeaks could be heard from the bat enclosure. H headed to one of the employee-only doors, practically hidden in the darkness. Using the badge once more, she opened the hidden bowels of the building. It was brighter back there, more industrial than soft, muted darkness of the animal areas. They stood in the hall that offered a handful of small offices and a prep area. Perfect, H muttered, pushing the metal table and chairs out of the way to make open space. Sliding the backpack off her shoulder, she pulled out a black pouch. 5 sky blue crystals tumbled into her palm. Here, she handed them to Harry. I'll draw the form and you put these chargers at each of the points. She showed Harry the sketch and pointed to the spots. H then drew a large circle on the floor with connecting lines in a pattern that Harry didn't recognize, adding in glyphs. Following behind, Harry put her crystals in the spots as indicated. It reminded her of the chalk drawings at the door to the library and the ones covering the apartment. If I didn't know any better, I'd say this was a summoning circle used by a witch for a spell, Harry mused. H glanced down at her work, wiping the extra chalk off her hands on her pants. Who's to say it's not? She shrugged. Wait, so we learn magic in the future? H shot her a half smile. Maybe magic is just science you don't understand yet. I mean, come on, what a line is that? Maybe magic is just science you don't understand yet. Towing one of the crystals to the exact location she wanted, H continued. To me, this is just a new advancement of our tech. We've been using vortexes forever for transporting purposes, but not crashing different timelines. This is new and terrifying, H shuddered. I'm sure I take things for granted and would strike you as magical in your time. She fished out what looked to be a wand. And you take things for granted in this life that would seem magical to someone from the not-so-distant past. H touched the wand to the closest crystal, and one by one they illuminated to a soft glow. Harry took a step back, hand on her chest as the air intensified, and goosebumps bloomed on her arms. There was something more to the space than only a few minutes before. The air between the stones had a shimmer, as if you were looking down a long road in the middle of a hot summer day. H scooped up the pack, tossing it over her shoulder. You have been a tremendous help. I'm sorry I had to disrupt things for you in this life, but it was unavoidable. Hopefully we'll be able to see this through, and your life will take a very different trajectory than mine. Glancing at Harry over her shoulder, she smiled, her first true smile. May you never see me again, except in the mirror for a long time. She pulled the air aside and stepped through, disappearing from the room. Quick little ... A few hours later, Harry cautiously entered the library, where only 24 hours ago, her life and everything she believed had been turned upside down. The chalk glyphs had been wiped off, and there didn't seem to be any damage to the basement door. Sighing in a relief that nothing seemed amiss, she settled in at the front desk, checking the requests for the day. She froze when she saw another special inquiry from her boss. Once more, it was one of the peculiar books, with a request to stay after hours. Taking a steadying breath, she willed her heart to slow as an excited smile pulled at her lips. What adventures would this night bring her? So good, right? Are you with me?
Yeah.
What do you think, Tech Guy?
That was great.
Yeah.
You had me at time travel.
Right? I know. I didn't see that coming. I will say in peculiar, in all of the entries there were lots of ghosts, and there were some magical librarians and things like that, but the time travel was so unique and original, and I just loved how the story came together. So Joanne, great job. I don't know if Joanne's on tonight, but Joanne, hopefully you're going to get to see this later. If not, what I should also say for all the winners, you will be getting packages in the next week or so too, because you actually get some good bonus stuff on top of just bragging rights for how amazing your stories are. So awesome, right? Did you all not love it? I want more to this. I want to see this in a show. I need it. I need more. I need more. What else is going to happen to H and Harry? So much. Okay, I'm going to take a drink of water and now my cheeks are red from the lights. All right. So good, right, Lenny? Keep writing. Yes, please keep writing. Please keep writing. Sue, I agree. I feel like this could be expanded into a novel. I would love for any of these stories to be a springboard. If you wrote something and you enjoyed it, this came up in our Author Academy, and you want to take this concept and run with it, you absolutely, I just feel like I got something in my tooth, sorry. I don't know what it would be since I just drank water. Maybe there's a bonus in my water from the cat. If you wanted to do something like that, you need to change the part that I wrote a little bit, tweak some names, make it your own, dust it off, and then please keep writing. Use it as a springboard. Okay, we have one more We have one more, Valerie. I know, I want a sequel too. Last but certainly not least, is our little touch of romance, The Sound of Hello. And again, because there were so many phenomenal entries, phenomenal entries. There were, I don't know if I said this. The most entries were for Sand Doom. The second most were for Peculiar. The last chunk were for this romance. And the romance, I felt like for a while there, we only had like 10 or 15 entries. And then the last few days they came flooding in. So that was fun to see. So romance readers must be more on the fly, or writers. Okay, so I have two, that's right, 2 honorable mentions for this one as well. So without further ado, honorable mentions go to Joseph Lankard and Beth Cole. A round of applause. Super round of applause. Beth Cole's story had such wonderful, heartfelt writing, and just this sweet, tender goodbye that I felt like, not all, but most of the romance writers, there was a happy ending for. And this one had, I would say, less than a happy ending, but still a beautiful ending with this lovely, tender goodbye. So well done on that, Beth. And Joseph's story was phenomenal too. And it's one of my favorite last lines, which I wanted to share with you. The story ends with this very fabulous last line, especially knowing that it's a romance, which is, who says, is that the cat? You're gonna come up? You want to be part of the romance? Joseph's last line is, who says only the French know how to kiss? Ooh, that seems spicy in the best way for a romance. Well done. And then in terms of our winner, are we ready for our winner, Mr. Kira Slavins? I want to know if you speak Russian, first of all, because, first of all, there's going to be a lot that you're going to love, because I'm going to read you her story. But I love the character Annika. There was such a fluid use of Russian throughout that this is why I'm terrified to read this one. Had I not been trying to get Taylor Swift tickets all day, I might have done even more work on trying to make sure I got some of the Russian right, but I'm sure I didn't, so I'm just going to butcher it because I'm a mystery writer. I'll just butcher it all the way through, and I apologize to you in advance, because as I was reading it, it flowed beautifully and so well, but I'm sure that my Russian will not do justice to yours, but I really do need to know. You got to answer me that. Okay, so last but not least, let's read a little romance, The Sound of Hello. This is my part again. This is the part that I started. You learned it in a phonetic way. Okay, yeah, some of the writing is phonetic, which was actually quite helpful for me, but there are still a few words that I'm going to not get right. All right, this is my part, and then we'll move on. Zach logged onto the chat room, making sure he changed his keyboard to Russian. 4 weeks, 4 short weeks. That's how long he had to dust off his college-level Russian and attempt to become at best, proficient in the old world language. Why didn't I study harder, he thought, as he smoothed his cowlick and angled his computer screen so that the top of his head wasn't cut off. This isn't going to work. This is going to take a Herculean effort to get up to speed in 4 weeks. What are the odds an online class is going to work anyway? Well, it was too late to bail. Zach had already paid for the intensive, immersive experience and paid extra for supplemental chats with his instructor after each session. Speaking of instructors, where was she? His knee bounced as he smacked his minty gum and stared at the screen. He was dreading this. Languages had never been his thing, but his new job required proficiency in Russian, and he needed this job. During the interview process, the team had been impressed that he had taken college Russian. He had told them what they had wanted to hear. Zach knew how to play the interview game. He had used phrases like global student and worldview to describe his experience in those mononymous, I can't say that word, courses where his professor had taught him little more than how to fall asleep instantly at the sound of hello. Here we go, Carrie. You're gonna have to help me with this. Zasvavuche. I don't think I'm getting that right. Zaspaduce? He failed to mention in the interview that he had skipped the majority of his classes and napped through the rest. Now he had 1 month to cram. He glanced at the screen again. Where was she? He let out a long sigh and strummed his fingers on his desk, which was cluttered with notebooks, Sharpies, pocket translation books, and at least a dozen packages of gum. Annika, that was his instructor's name, was probably old and frumpy and a stern taskmaster like his collegiate professor. He already knew she was going to give him that look, the one that made it clear he was a loser, butchering her native tongue, when he should pack up and quit. I don't have time for this, Annika, Zach said out loud without realizing the screen had flashed to announce her arrival in the chat. Hello, Zach. A calm, serene voice that was sweet and as fresh as his winter mint gum greeted him. He looked up to see a woman about his age with hair as black as the ocean at night, bright eyes, and a smile that made him wonder what he had been doing his entire life. Why had he wasted a single second on a dead-end job or college classes when he could have been scouring the planet to find her? Sorry about that. Hi, Zach stammered, finding it challenging to force his mouth to form words and forgetting how to speak in complete sentences. Nice to meet you, Zach. Annika smiled broadly. Let's start with hello. Why do you want to learn how to speak Russian? Okay, so that's my start. And now we are going to go into Paris. Okay, so straight to business then. Zach took a deep breath. So there's this job, he started tentatively, but soon the prospect of nabbing his dream job took over as Zach told Annika about his great opportunity. He explained that he would be going abroad to provide patient care in rural areas with little modern health care. And I have to get this job, he said, finishing his hurried explanation, and I have to speak Russian in 4 weeks. Annika was so still that Zach thought her screen was frozen. Finally, she frowned slightly. Your application says you majored in English, but you are a doctor? Zach took another deep breath. By now, he had answered this question dozens of times. No, not a doctor. I had to pick a major and just couldn't decide. And who doesn't love to read? He said. What he didn't say was that he thought he could ace the English courses with minimal work. It took me almost 3 years to find my passion. I had a string of lame jobs, and my buddy told me that you could make good money as an EMT. The training was brutal at first. I just did it to pay the bills, but then I found out I'm really good at it, and I love it. Most days, anyway. And you can't continue your job here? She asked. But I'd miss out on adventure. The world is out there, he said, spreading his hand wide, and it's calling to me. Annika smiled. You found your destiny, as they say. Zach nodded. But had he? Was it his destiny to leave the Lost Coast? Nice little nod there, I like it. And go abroad? When he looked into those brilliant blue eyes, he was no longer sure. His mind drifted as she explained how the course and private sessions would work. Zach's long hours as an EMT required laser focus. Outside of work, he always had to fight the temptation to zone out, and right now, he was somewhat distracted by the way she curled that shimmery black hair around one finger. He was suddenly aware of an awkward silence. Annika gazed at him intently, waiting. Sorry, could you say that again? She brought her hand to her mouth, tapping her finger on her lip. She certainly had lovely long fingers, thought Zach, and no ring on that fourth finger. I was asking about your previous Russian class. How much do you think you retained? Maybe a few phrases. Our instructor taught us phonetically. I remember how to say, I surrender. It's yastoyus, he said, carefully enunciating each syllable, because it sounds like, what's the use? Get it? I surrender. What's the use? Yes, I understand. I have heard of that technique, Annika said. Zach brightened. Maybe what he learned last year would just come flooding back. This is not a proper way to learn, she said. Nice. His smile faded. One more thing for today, Annika continued. There is no guarantee you will be fluent enough to get this job. Are you sure this is right for you? Oh, yes, he said, leaning toward the screen. You are definitely right for me. The right teacher. You are definitely the right teacher for me, he stammered. Okay then, I will see you at the first group class. Until then, we say goodbye in Russian. Wait, he interrupted. I remember this one. It sounds like dust feed on you, he said. Dust feed on ya. Dust feed on ya, he said triumphantly. A small smile played on Annika's lips. Well, we'll work on that. Dosviana, she said. The screen flashed the message that the instructor had left the room. Over the next few weeks, Zach's entire life was filled with EMT shifts and Russian homework. He was surprised that he remembered most of the Cyrillic alphabet from his previous class. The thorn in his side was pronunciation. He had the most trouble with a simple hello. Why can't I just use the informal hello? He asked Annika during one of their one-on-one sessions. Privyet is so much easier than Straswithya, he said, trying to sound out the tongue twister. No, Annika said. You need to know the formal way too. You will use it every day. Have you been breaking down the syllables like I showed you? She had sent a video of her repeating each syllable again and again for Zach to follow along, but he had struggled, and sometimes he was distracted by those eyes, those sparkling eyes. Zach hung his head as he explained how foolish he felt saying the same bits over and over, contorting his mouth with the unfamiliar sounds. Zach, she asked, have you ever played the piano? He shook his head. I have played all my life, she continued. Being a classical pianist is my destiny. When I have a difficult passage, I play just a few bars over and over. Then I add a few more and do it again. Finally, my fingers know exactly what to do. This is what you must do if you finally want to walk into your destiny. He looked at her quizzically. My destiny? Yes, your destiny, the job in Russia. Right, he said, even though he was no longer sure if his destiny was a real thing. Okay, I promise I will practice more. Speaking of practice, Annika said, you should really try to come to class meetups. A few beers at Harvey's and your Russian might improve drastically. She laughed softly. This was the first time Zach had seen her break out of her staunch teacher vibe. Yeah, he nodded. Work's been crazy, but I'll really try to come. I really want to. Please do, Annika replied. Time's running out. Her face reddened slightly. For you to learn Russian, I mean. She quickly signed off, and Zach noticed she forgot to say Dosvinyana. As they approached the final week of class, Zach knew that he had failed to learn enough Russian to work effectively with native-speaking patients. Maybe if he threw himself on the mercy of the hiring board, they would see his passion for the work and let him learn a language in the field. But after each class, he found it harder and harder to picture himself leaving the Lost Coast, getting on a plane, and not returning for months or maybe even years. And his thoughts kept returning to Annika's blue eyes and that smile, her elegant, ringless hand. Surely there were other ways to see the world, to find adventures, to fulfill his destiny. Zach resolved to attend the final class meetup and ask Annika for her honest opinion about his progress. Maybe conversing in person would spark something. Maybe his Russian was better than he thought. On the night of the last meetup, Zach stood outside the entrance to Harvey's and straightened his forest green shirt, making sure it was neatly tucked. He almost forgot to spit out the minty gum that was refreshing his breath. With one last finger comb of his cowlick, he headed outside. He spotted several classmates in the back corner near the pool table. One young man caught his eye and waved him over. Hey, man, I recognize you from class. He reached out to give Zach a handshake bro hug combination. Good to finally meet ya. I'm Tom. Zach nodded. Yeah, I recognize you too. I've been trying to get here, but life and stuff. Tom clapped him on the shoulder. Well, never too late, am I right? Let me introduce you. Tom pointed to each classmate around the table. Marilla, Gregor, Austin, Sammy, each one greeted Zach in turn. Looks like we need another pitcher, Tom said, heading to the bar. Zach turned to look at the crowded room. So, where's Annika? He asked. The woman named Mariella shrugged. She couldn't make it. Something to do with her other job. Zach tried to not show his disappointment as he pulled another chair to the table. So, do we speak Russian or what? Not tonight, Tom explained as he set the pitcher on the table along with an extra glass. No teacher, no schoolwork, am I right? The group tapped glasses with cheers all around. They passed the evening with a few more pitchers, and Zach realized he really liked these people and regretted not coming to more meetups, especially when Annika was here. They spoke no Russian that evening, and Zach had to face the fact that his dream job was slipping away. When he finally left the bar and the group said their dos svidzinias, Zach turned home dejected. He still felt disappointed and a little hungover the next evening as he and his partner Sylvia headed for their last shift. That was good work back there, Sylvia said as she pulled their rig into the main thoroughfare. You really kept Miss Petrov calm. And where did you learn how to speak Russian? I don't know. Zach ducked his head, a bit embarrassed. I've been taking a class. I don't think I've learned much, but maybe something stuck. Just an hour before, they had received a call for a man with chest pains. Another team of paramedics beat them to the scene where they were loading him, conscious and alert, into their ambulance. Zach had noticed that the man's wife was pacing and crying. He realized she was speaking Russian as she pleaded with the onlookers to tell her what had happened. Somehow, he had been able to summon up enough Russian to explain that she could go to the hospital with her husband. Before climbing into the ambulance, she had hugged Zach tightly. Spatsiba, spatsiba, she said through tears. Thank you, thank you. Now Sylvia drove through the quiet streets with Zach slumped in the passenger seat. Sylvia was a seasoned paramedic who had perfected the art of completing a shift, sometimes a double, without so much as a yawn or a head droop. Zach started to drift off to the rhythm of the windshield wipers. He jerked awake when Sylvia flipped on the lights and the siren. Hey, we just got a call. Hit and run. Car versus bike, just outside of Madison Hall. Zach shook off the last of his nap as they approached the concert hall. 2 officers were working on the scene. One was talking to a small group of onlookers, while the other spoke to someone seated at the curb, a bike with a mangled tire just a few feet away. As Zach and Sylvia approached the victim, the officer broke off to update them. Bike victim got sideswiped, took a tumble. She says she's not injured, but she's shaken up. She probably needs concussion protocol too, the officer said. Thanks, said Zach, turning to Sylvia. I got this one. He walked toward the young woman on the curb. She was hugging her knees, her hoodie pulled tight against the drizzling rain. Hi, I'm Zach, he said, kneeling beside you. I'd like to check and see if you have any injuries and how you're doing. Can you tell me if you're feeling pain anywhere? The woman looked up at Zach, her pupils wide in shock. Brilliant blue eyes. He noticed her hoodie was hiding long, dark hair. Zach? She said, her eyes sparkling with recognition. I thought it was too late. I thought you would leave, and her words trailed off. Zach grinned. No, sadly, I have not mastered the Russian language, even though I had a magnificent teacher. She smiled. She managed a slight smile. But I did learn one thing. One important thing, he continued, holding her gaze. Hello, Annika. Sosvedrinsky. See, I'm still pronouncing it wrong. He pronounced it perfectly. Yay! So great. So lovely, Kara. Sorry in advance or after the fact for butchering your Russian, but you did it perfectly. I love the whole story. I loved all of the language stuff as a language lover myself. And then I love how it came full circle at the end where, of course Zach has to be the EMT and she's going to be fine, right? There's no murder involved. She might have a little mild concussion, but Zach's going to take care of her and it'll all be good. What did you all think? What did you think? This was a stand-up night for me. I just had so much fun reading through all of your entries. Just phenomenal writing in this group. Phenomenal writing. Not that I'm surprised. I absolutely love them all. I hope, like I said at the beginning, that if you're considering writing, you just keep at it because didn't these stories just bring you like a little moment of fun and lightness and bookish delights tonight? They did for me. Let's see. In terms of what's next, we're gonna take a little time off for Thanksgiving next week. I hope you all have plans to make something delicious. Is it turkey at your house? Is it something else? We were just seeing some friends up in Portland this weekend, and they're going all in with tamales and tacos and all of the things. Watch Bert Kreischer's stand up about Russia and getting involved with the Russian mafia. Okay, Trisha, thanks for that recommendation. I'm on it. Paula, she's not even gonna have a concussion. You're right. She's totally fine. Yeah, it was fate's way to bring them together. Totally. It's just gonna be like a little bump on the head. She's all good. It's fine. Totally. And is Zach gonna go? Is he gonna go, or is his destiny actually just to stay? We'll have to see. Okay, sorry, I got off track. December 6th, we're going to have a Secret Santa live bash. It's too much reading for me tonight now. We're going to have a live bash for Secret Santa. I'm not telling you what it is because it's a secret. It's Secret Santa. But I will tell you, you definitely want to be here. There might be a lot of prizes involved. The tech guy has been working on lots of holiday stuff. Yes?
Yes.
Yes, that's all you're going to say?
Yeah, well, I can't give it away.
You can't give it away. Yes. Secret Santa surprise. So that's coming up, and I hope you'll join us. Bring a friend, bring a couple friends, wear a holiday hat, have a holiday festive drink on hand, whatever, a cookie, you name it. And then, then at the end of the year, we're going to be into Muffin But the Truth, what is it? Book 16? Is that right? Yeah, book 16 of Bake Shop. Oh, there it is.
It's not out.
It's not out now. No. Oh, you're psyching him out. Oh my gosh.
There we go.
December 27th. Wow, that was fast.
Good.
I've got some fun things planned for the release party for Muffin But the Truth. So just put Tuesday, December 27th in your back pocket for that one. And and then we're going to be going into the new year. I've been already mapping out kind of some ideas, some guests, some new writing projects, all the good things Kayla, is it? Okay, that's perfect. December 6th, St. Nicholas Day. Well,
totally planned it that way.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we definitely did. Anyway, I have lots to share about what's going to come up for 2023. But again, thank you to everyone from the bottom of my heart who took the time to write a story and submit something. It was just, I don't know why I still have my reading glasses on. I'm like, why can't I see the screen? It was so great to get to spend a little moment inside all of your storytelling heads. And if you loved this, make sure you let me know, because I would love to do another one like this maybe in early spring. We need a New Year's Eve tour book. That's funny that you say that, because I've kind of been working on one that might be New Year's Eve-ish. So that feels right to me too, Kara. It really does. Congratulations to our story showcase winners. You will be getting packages in the mail, and I wish you all a lovely holiday week next week, and I will see you in December for Secret Fun.